Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Sales Performance Improvement Radio. I'm your host, Terry Hansen. It's great to be back with you once again today. Today, I want to chat with you about some of the key takeaways and insights that I'm really appreciating and learning as I've been reading through Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference book and how to apply some of these negotiation tactics that he has used for years and years as part of the FBI's, hostage negotiating team in a sales context. So stick with me. Okay, so I got to tell you guys a quick funny story that kind of brought this whole idea of negotiation and bargaining, but in a sales context, forefront to my mind. So the other day, I guess by way of just maybe quick context, I've got my wife and I have been married for 21 years. We've got 5 kids. My oldest is almost 21. My youngest is 11, and we've got a standing rule in our household with our kids that PG-13 movies are generally speaking kind of off limits unless you are obviously over the age of 13. We don't take that PG-13 guideline rule lightly, and of course, if you're under the age of 13, then you typically mom and dad have to go watch the movie first. And make sure it's okay. Give the kid a thumbs up before we would let them watch a PG-13 movies. Otherwise, it's just kind of off limits. So we in our household are pretty diehard Marvel movie fans, and so all of the Avengers movies, all of the Thor movies, all the Iron Man movies, all those are pretty big stuff. And so there has been a couple of times in the past where we have watched Black Panther together, or Infinity War, or Endgame together, or maybe and even some of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and we've really enjoyed them, and they're fun, and they're great, and they're a good time. But generally speaking, my 11-year-old hasn't been able to watch all of the rest of the Marvel movies because of this kind of PG-13 standard that we have. Well, so the other day I'm minding my own business, cooking up some food in the kitchen, and all of a sudden my 11-year-old, whose name is Max, comes to me and says, "Dad, I have a question for you." And so I turn around and I say, "Yeah, buddy, what's up?" And he says, and he kind of looks me in the eye and he says, "Before you tell me no, let me just explain." And I, of course, in my good-natured joking self, I just yell out, "No, the answer is no. We're not doing it. There's no way possible. It's entirely improbable, and it's just not going to happen." And he kind of stammers and stutters, and he says, "Okay," knowing that I'm entirely joking. He says, we, as I know that we have a family rule that I can't watch PG-13 movies, and I'm okay with that. But as you know, we've watched Black Panther as a family, and Endgame, and Infinity War, and Guardians of the Galaxy, and I know that in order for me to be able to watch a PG-13 movie, watch the other Marvel movies like Iron Man and Captain America, that you and mom have to watch them first and make sure that they're okay. So I was just wondering, is it okay if I watch the first Iron Man movie, even though it's PG-13? And he brought up all sorts of really good points, and I had to kind of run back through my mental list of all the good, bad, and ugly things that are in the first Iron Man movie, and I really couldn't think of too many terrible ones that would disqualify it as maybe a PG-13 movie that kind of is over the top and may not be good for an 11-year-old. And I said, after some discussion, I said, "You know what? That's okay, buddy. You can go watch the first Iron Man movie." And he throws his arms up into the air, and he's super excited, and he just runs down the hall, super excited to go jump on his Roku TV and go watch. But I thought about that tactic that he used right off the bat. He said, "Dad, before you tell me no, before the answer is no, I want to ask you a question and share a couple of things." And there's a little bit of a psychological effect there that immediately got my guard down as a dad, as an overprotective dad. And he says, "I know you're going to say no. I've set my expectations to no. I know I know the rules and this, but here's the situation and here's the context. And under this situation and context, would you ever consider allowing me to watch this movie?" And I had to relent a little bit and say, "Yeah, no, that would be fine." But with starting off at a no, and kind of going for a no is actually one of the tactics that Chris Voss in his book, Never Split the Difference, talks about. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this or read this book yet. It's very, very good. I'm not all the way done. As you can see, I'm on chapter 9 so far of the book. So, but so far I've been very, very impressed with some of the very powerful techniques and tactics that he uses to describe negotiating and bargaining with terrorists and other kind of high tension situations and circumstances. Now, as a sales leader, you've been in the game a long time. I know. And chances are you've got a team of sales professionals who've also been selling for a long time. And I wanted to give a couple of shout outs to Chris Voss in his book and kind of take a couple of the tactics that he's mentioning and bring those over into a sales context and maybe chat with you a little bit about some additional ways to build rapport and to build empathy with your sales prospects that you're trying to close. And if you find in your experience that your sales team is good, is okay at this, but they could certainly be better, I would highly recommend maybe adopting and taking advantage of Chris Voss's book and taking a peek at that a second time and reviewing that in detail with your team. But as you know, really, if you want to close more sales, then ultimately one of the key ingredients that has to be in play is that the sales prospect has to feel like they can trust you, right? Trust is a critical component, and trust is a fickle, funny thing that is built upon several components, but certainly rapport between the salesperson and the sales prospect is an important ingredient in there, and certainly empathy and feeling heard and feeling understood. And I'll never forget a quote, one of my early mentors in the sales game, gosh, at this point in time, probably 18 to 20 years ago. I'll never forget, he mentioned this. His name was Gary Harvey, and he was a sales coach that I mentored with years and years ago in Denver, Colorado. He says he always told me that that feeling heard and feeling understood is so close to the feeling of feeling loved that most people don't know the difference. And if you want to influence someone and help them trust you, help them feel, in essence, loved by you, help them feel that you actually, as corny as it might sound, that you actually care and love them. And one of the ways that you can do is help them feel heard and understood. So what are some of the tried and true tactics that we've heard for years and years about helping our sales prospects feeling heard and understood? Well, obviously, listening. Right. And for decades and decades and decades, all the best sales coaches and trainers and gurus and masters out there have preached the importance of the fact that we've got 2 ears. God created us with 2 ears and 1 mouth. So we should be doing twice as much listening to our sales prospects as we do talking, right? We've heard that countless times. We've even heard the old-fashioned 70-30 rule of communication, which is we should allow our sales prospects to do 70% of the talking, with us doing 30% of the talking. That sort of ratio and balance is pretty vital in the early stages of the sales conversation. Now, you know, in the sales process, after you schedule the meeting and you finally sit down with the sales prospect and you've got them on the phone or you've got them face to face, there's this period of qualification, of discovery, of learning, where you ask them a whole bunch of questions, they tell you a whole bunch of stuff, and then you use all of that really good information then to put together your presentation, your sales proposal, your pitch, you add your prices to it, and then later on after that, you work to close the sale. Well, it's right during this whole 70-30 rule, this whole 2 ears, 1 mouth, and the vital importance of listening. This all plays a vital role early in the sales process, but it also plays a critical role after you've given your sales proposal to the sales prospect, after you've given them a price quote, or after you've given them your sales presentation. It plays a critical role there too. So let's talk about some of the tactics that Chris Voss shares in Never Split the Difference on building rapport and really doing a good job at helping the the prospect in this sense really talk more and feel comfortable in sharing things with you. Okay. So number one thing that he mentions is be sure to, during those crucial moments, to slow the conversation down. So that's number one. If you find the prospect saying some pretty important things, but kind of moving quickly, it's okay to slow the conversation down and say something like, so let me go back to what you said here. You said that production is down by 30%. Tell me more about that. What does that mean exactly? So something that you hear that catches your attention, slow the conversation down and go back to that kind of golden nugget, that little piece of evidence that might open up a whole big can of worms, good worms, that will give you ammunition that you need. So slow the conversation down. That's one of Chris Voss's kind of first tactics that he recommends using. Second tactic that he describes is repeating their words back to them, maybe even kind of slowly. So if a prospect says that their production is down by 30%, you could say down by 30%. So you're repeating the same word back to them, but kind of in an upward questioning tone. And they'll say, yeah, it's been like that for months, or they'll elaborate on that. So when you hear a phrase or hear a word or hear a statement that your prospect says that you feel like is important, feel free to kind of raise your hand and even interrupt them and say, so down by 30%, tell me more about that. What does that mean? Right. So repeat their phraseology, repeat their words back to them. That makes a big difference. Another key ingredient to help them talk more and really flush out their thoughts and their feelings, help them trust you and build that rapport, is actually silence. Chris Voss talks about this tactic number 3 of being comfortable with silence. Now, it's a problem for you and I who are kind of the big mouth extroverts. Less of a problem for those who are more introverted, who are more steady relators, who are more compliant in the DISC language. They're the compliant type personalities and the steady relators of the world. They're perfectly okay with large amounts of silence. Why? Because that's good thinking and pondering time. They're thinking of answers. They're thinking about what things mean, and they're kind of doing the calculus in their brain. So that's good. That's good stuff for those who are more dominant. For those who are more influencers like myself, well, guess what? We tend to get a little bit more uncomfortable with silence. That can be kind of hard. We kind of feel like, what's going on? Nobody's talking. It kind of feels awkward and weird. I got to jump in and say something to rescue this awkward situation. But recognize that silence is a powerful tool to help the prospect talk. So once you ask a question or once they say something, and you maybe even respond with, interesting. And you just pause and let them fill in that void. Silence is a powerful tool to help them think, to ponder, to reflect, to calculate, and then comment. But don't be afraid of silence. Let silence kind of work its magic to help influence them to share more and talk more, for sure. One of the last tactics that he talks about in terms of building rapport is actually your tone of voice. Be cautious of your tone of voice, and he calls it the late night FM DJ voice, kind of this low, seductive, comforting, nurturing voice that you might hear on late night radio. So it's just kind of this soothing, calm voice that puts your heart and your soul and your emotions at ease. And I'm being a little over dramatic for the point of illustration, but he said he recommends using kind of this late night FM DJ voice to inspire trust, inspire rapport, inspire confidence, and help people relax and just feel a little more just comfortable. So these are some of the tactics that he mentions and recommends for just straight up building rapport. Now, I know some of these are probably not new to you. In fact, they're probably reinforcing and reminding you of things that you've already heard and known. But I just want to put a pin in each one of these 4 tactics. Enjoy the silence. Use your double check the tonality of your voice and use that kind of soft, nurturing tonality that everybody appreciates and loves. Repeat their words back to them. and slow the conversation down. So if you find that your sales team are struggling to close sales or present well or whatnot, and you're listening and observing and watching them, and you're noticing that they're not slowing conversations down. They're not leveraging pauses and silence. They're not repeating words back to them, and they're not, and their tone of voice is kind of maybe all over the place, all over the place. Please know that some of the best hard driving negotiation and bargaining strategies on the planet are based in those 4 tactics, and encourage your sales team to start adopting that a little bit more. So I want to turn the page over a little bit to one more tactic, and he calls it tactical empathy. Tactical empathy, and I think it's just genius. It's a subtle nuance to really, again, help validate your sales prospects' emotions, and help them, again, kind of going back to a previous comment, helping them feel heard and understood. So step 1 is to get them to trust you enough to share information. And so we use those 4 tactics that we just got done talking about. But also now at this point in time, we want to help them feel like they're not that they've just been doing a lot of talking and a lot of sharing, but that we get it, that we understand them, and that we truly not only hear them, but we get them, we understand them, we comprehend them. And the great and late Stephen Covey was always famous for his 7 habits of highly effective people. And one of those habits, as you know, is seek first to understand, then to be understood. And so Chris Voss's tactical empathy really has its roots right in there. So one of the cool techniques, and we'll wrap up with this, is demonstrating to the sales prospect that we really understand kind of the nuances and the details of their emotions and the feelings that are underlying there. We can proactively use a technique called labeling their fears, labeling their concerns, labeling their frustrations, their worries, that sort of giving that a name, calling it out, labeling it, and just putting a sticker right on it. So imagine that you've asked the question, early in the sales presentation, you might say something like, Mr. Prospect, what are some things that you wish would change or be better when it comes to your plant operations, right? And he starts talking and kind of going over the things that he'd like to see changed or improved. Right. And you've used some of these previous tactics. Well, what do you mean by this? And tell me more about that. Or it sounds like this. And he's elaborating. And after he's elaborated and shared maybe 1 or 2 or 3 key concerns about, say, productivity in the plant or whatever the case might be, here comes the opportunity then, after he's shared, to use this tactical empathy and really show him or her that you understand the nuances of their emotions through this labeling tactic. And so you can use phrases, for example, like, well, it sounds like overall you're really afraid that your employees will, fill in the blank. It sounds like you're afraid of fill in the blank, and you call it. You say you're afraid of, or you might even say something like, it looks like you're very concerned about, and then you fill in the blank. But you label the fear, you label the frustration, you label the concern as that. Right? You're frustrated about this. It sounds like you're concerned about that. It seems like you're really afraid of this, and you label that. And then you want to hear them, say that the magic words, that's right. Or correct, or you nailed it, or you got it, or something like that. When they do that, they're confirming you get me, you understand me. So anyway, I really appreciated some of the tactics that Chris Voss has shared so far in his book, Never Split the Difference, and I highly recommend it. Again, it's not overtly a sales book. It's really a book about improving the quality of communication that you have in kind of high pressure situations. And of course, we can apply a lot of those techniques and tactics to the field of sales. So if you're noticing that your sales team is really struggling to close sales as effectively as they could, they're dishing out a lot of proposals, but maybe only a small percentage of those bids and estimates and proposals are actually closing, that's a cue and an opportunity for you to go sit in and listen, and go sit and observe, and go sit in and watch watch them sell, watch them try to close sales. And if you're noticing an absence of some of these key techniques and key tactics, which are just basic, fundamental, 101, good old-fashioned listening skills, if your salespeople are struggling to listen well to your sales prospects, that's probably one of the core reasons why they are not closing those deals. So it's a call to action for you as a sales leader to watch and observe, and then to reinforce good, solid listening habits. These habits are easy to fall out of. Even though we intellectually might know them and be aware of them, doesn't mean we are good at practicing them, applying them, or using them. So have your antennas be alert and alert and ready as you're observing and listening and watching your salespeople sell. And so anyway, I hope those help you. Like I said, I'm only on chapter 9 of Never Split the Difference and Chris Voss's book. So I've still got quite a ways to go left. But if you're okay, I'll be sharing a couple more really kind of key takeaways and kind of just putting a pin in some of the things that I found really impressive, really helpful, and reinforce a lot of the good practices that salespeople, SDRs, BDRs, account executives, you name it, that we all need to be employing in our personal and professional lives. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I hope this has been a good reminder for you from some of these, some of these basic skills that we all just need to develop. So can't wait to be back with you once again on the next episode of Sales Performance Improvement Radio. I'm your host, Hansen. Take good care, and can't wait to see you back next time. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.